Okay, today we're diving into an absolutely baffling missing persons case. It's one that starts as a standard mystery and then totally spirals into a dark, real-world conspiracy. Let's just unravel this whole thing.
So we're looking at the chilling disappearance of a guy named Ethan Parker. Now, Ethan was a standard bank official, nothing flashy about his life, just a regular everyday guy. But his sudden vanishing acts as a doorway into this massive, super dark conspiracy. The real hook of this entire case isn't just that a man went missing, it's that exactly 48 hours later, hard evidence proves he's perfectly fine. So the real question we're going to answer today is, who exactly forced him into the shadows?
Right. Let's look at the timeline, because the escalation of this mystery is incredibly rapid. It starts on a Monday at 6:12 p.m. Security cameras catch Ethan leaving the office parking lot in his car. Pretty normal, right? Well, by 10 p.m., his wife Sophia is completely panicking because he hasn't come home and his phone is dead. By Tuesday morning, the police are involved and the trail is literally already going cold. Then, exactly 48 hours later, a cryptic, unmarked envelope just arrives at Sophia's door.
But before we get to what was in that envelope, we have to talk about what's truly baffling here, and that is the sheer lack of violence at the crime scene. See, before that envelope showed up, police actually found Ethan's car parked on this deserted road just outside the city. The doors locked. Inside, they found his cell phone, his wallet with all the cash and cards completely untouched, and his office bag. There were zero signs of a struggle. No broken glass, no blood, nothing. It's almost like Ethan just calmly stepped out of his locked car on a dark, isolated road and simply walked away into the night. Okay, which brings us back to that envelope delivered 48 hours later. Inside was a photograph showing Ethan, completely unharmed, sitting at a simple wooden table and looking straight at the camera. But it was the chilling message written on the back of the photo that brought just a deafening silence to the whole investigation. It read, "Keep police away. I am alive." That's it. No ransom demand, no threats, just this haunting instruction. Naturally, the police initially suspected kidnappers wrote it, maybe to buy time or throw off the investigation. But then forensics dropped an absolute bombshell. Handwriting analysis confirmed without a shadow of a doubt that Ethan wrote that note himself. He wasn't being forced to write it under duress. The strokes matched his natural handwriting absolutely perfectly. So the crucial question that really pivots this entire investigation is this. If this wasn't a kidnapping and he's physically unharmed, why isn't he returning to his wife? Why did he abandon his car like that? Who exactly is he running from? To find out, investigators had to dig into Ethan's life in the months leading up to that Monday evening. And they started with his wife, Sophia. In her interviews, she revealed that Ethan had not been himself lately. Actually, scratch that. He had become intensely paranoid over the last few months. He would pace the house, constantly checking the windows, and he just kept repeating this vague but really terrifying phrase to her, "I saw something wrong." But he absolutely refused to explain what he meant, probably trying to protect her from whatever it was. Acting on this suspicion, investigators immediately zeroed in on his workplace. First, they seized Ethan's office computer. Next, cyber experts dug deep into the hard drive and managed to resurrect a deleted, heavily encrypted file. And finally, after hours and hours of trying to crack the password, they decrypted it. What they recovered was a massive cache of hidden bank data that basically cracked this entire case wide open. It turns out, Ethan had stumbled right into a massive, sophisticated web of fraud. We are talking about secret transactions orchestrated by the bank's highest-ranking officials. There were active fake accounts holding crores of money. To put that in perspective, we're talking tens of millions here. Plus, verified overseas transfers routing this dark money straight into offshore accounts. Ethan, just a standard mid-level employee, had somehow downloaded the entire blueprint of a massive financial crime syndicate operating right above his head. But finding the financial data? That wasn't even the most shocking part. The room went completely still when police found a pre-recorded video tucked inside that exact same encrypted folder. It was dated just 3 days before he vanished. In the video, Ethan looked exhausted, he looked terrified, and he delivered this harrowing warning. "If I suddenly disappear, assume I didn't run away. I am trying to survive." I mean, he knew they were onto him.
So knowing Ethan was on the run from some seriously powerful executives, the police went right back to that initial proof-of-life photograph. Forensic experts zoomed way in on the background, and right behind Ethan, in the glass of a window, they caught a tiny reflection. It was just a few partial letters of an old neon signboard, but guess what? It was enough to identify a very specific rundown motel.
By cross-referencing those partial letters with business records, they pinpointed the exact location. The motel was situated exactly 70 kilometers outside the city limits, deep in this remote, rural area where absolutely no one would think to look for a missing corporate banker.
Heavily armed police rushed to the location. They were expecting a tense rescue mission or maybe even an ambush by corporate fixers. They kicked down the door, but instead, they found Ethan perfectly safe. He was just sitting at that exact wooden table from the photo. But he wasn't alone. He was sitting with someone whose presence in that room was, frankly, impossible.
Okay, get ready for this astonishing twist. Ethan was hiding out with Daniel Brooks. Now, who is Daniel Brooks? He was a former auditor for that exact same bank. The problem? Daniel Brooks had been declared dead in a highly suspicious car accident a whole year ago. Yeah, no way, right? It turns out Daniel had discovered the exact same financial scandal a year prior, realized his life was in serious danger, and faked his own death just to survive.
So here is the real story. The whole shebang. There was never a kidnapping. Ethan knew he was under severe surveillance by the bank's fixers and that his time was rapidly running out. So he staged his own disappearance, leaving his car completely untouched just to confuse everyone. He had secretly made contact with the dead auditor, Daniel Brooks, and they teamed up in that remote motel to organize the rock-solid, irrefutable evidence they needed to expose the entire network before they were permanently silenced. Now, when the stunned police officers finally lowered their weapons and asked Ethan why he didn't just come to the authorities on day one with those files, Ethan gave a somber answer that brought a final, chilling silence to the room. He just looked at the officers and simply said, "Because I didn't know who to trust." When the criminals you're exposing are the most wealthy and powerful people in the city, the local police precinct really doesn't feel like a safe haven.
This entire explainer proves that in a world of deep, systemic corruption, sometimes disappearing is literally the only way to stay alive. It leaves us with a truly unsettling thought, doesn't it? In a world where power dictates the truth, how many other missing people out there aren't actually lost, but are just hiding in plain sight to survive? It really makes you question the obvious evidence right in front of you.